Well, welcome everybody. We have a special guest today, and very exciting for Colorado Springs to have Dr. Whiting here. He's world renowned for his take on nutrition, and we're here and excited to present his nutritional line that he's formulated, which is super cool. I've been on it for several months. In fact, that's how we brought him here, is because I've sold a lot and learning so much more, and we have so many new things to bring to you here at Body Detox Center, and the first of all is Dr. Whiting. So welcome, Dr. Whiting. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. It's a little cold, but
It is a little cold, but
right.
it is the Rocky Mountains. But I think what I'd like to do for our clients and people that are interested in us and your product is to just ask you some questions that have been text, emailed, and posted on my Facebook wall. Some questions that really are important, and we're going to bring our audience through a story here, and you're going to tell us through your words what we have to offer here and what you've given us so that we can offer to everybody else.
Fire away.
All right. So our first question is from Joel, actually, of Colorado Springs, and some I'll give some author to, some I won't. What causes thinning hair, and what could you do and go about in changing it?
Well, it's nothing like starting out with a loaded question, all right? The reason I say that is because there are multiple reasons for this problem. It can be nutritional.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a patent mineral deficiency. It can be genetic, just as graying of the hair can be, especially if it's premature.
Okay.
You'll hear people say that graying of the hair is a mineral deficiency. It is in some people,
Right.
but not in everyone.
Okay.
If you're a male and your father was gray at 29, you got a really good chance of following in his footsteps.
Okay.
That's not 100%, but definitely.
Right.
But if I was looking at it from the nutritional point of view, I would be looking at remineralizing the body.
Okay.
I would be looking at things like folic acid.
Okay.
I would be looking at extra vitamin C.
Excellent.
Because the hair follicle requires a wide variety of nutrients at various stages of hair growth. Now, the biggest cause, especially in men, and to some extent in women, of course, is the conversion of testosterone to dihydrotestosterone. And anything we can do to prevent that or slow that down, and that process accelerates with age, which is why we tend to
I see.
have increased balding problems as we grow older. One of the things that you can do to prevent that is to take an herb called saw palmetto, which helps to prevent that conversion of one form of testosterone to the other.
Excellent. Excellent. And you have a product that would help that?
Yes, in fact, oddly enough, some of the similar biochemical problems that we experience in people with premature or aggressive balding are also the same potential scenarios that will set someone up for prostate problems.
Oh, interesting how that correlates.
And it isn't 100% every time,
Right.
but I would say 60-70% of the time, if we've got somebody who's balding prematurely, especially if they have a fair amount of body hair, they're going to have a much higher risk for prostate problems later in life.
So that's one of your questionnaire, and we'll get to that later, was if you have an overabundance of hair, that is a signal for something else.
Yes, when the hair moves off your head and down your back, then it's a signal of something different.
Well, there you go. That could be maybe one of our other questions here. Well, that's excellent. Okay, my second question. Are sweet potatoes a good choice versus potatoes? In some of your literature, you talk about potatoes being a inflammatory response product or food source.
Okay, so let's start with the inflammatory issue first,
okay.
and then we'll move on to the potato.
Okay.
There are several foods that we consume regularly that are pro-inflammatory.
Okay.
Nightshades, which
Okay.
would include tomatoes, peppers.
Okay.
There are...
They promote inflammation.
They tend to promote inflammation.
Okay.
White flour products,
Okay.
highly refined sugars.
Okay.
Again, in moderation, human beings have been eating these things for thousands and thousands of years.
Right.
But if you look at the standard American diet today, which we abbreviate, by the way, the standard American diet is the SAD diet.
Oh, it is.
See?
Yes.
And the reason why we know it's so sad is because we can introduce the standard American diet to a third world country, and we can also introduce massive chronic degenerative disease in 25 years or less.
Amazing.
So we know how bad it is. But
Right.
so is a sweet potato better than a white one? Marginally.
Really?
Yeah, it's probably a bit more complex.
Okay.
And that's really the key when we talk about carbohydrate foods,
Right.
is how fast they're going to break down into glucose, because they all will. That's
Yes.
the only place they can go.
Right.
It's how fast they go there.
Okay.
The faster they go there, the more potential problems arise for your metabolism.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, that it makes sense to me. And great questions. Okay. The next question, which I get all the time every day. When should I start a candida cleanse or yeast cleanse? Or should I wait? When should I wait? When's the delta there?
Well, first of all, you need to determine with some degree of accuracy if you have a candida problem. And that can be easily done by our candida self-evaluation test, which is available to anyone, I believe, from your detox center.
Right. We have it right here today,
And
starting
so
today.
somebody can drop in and pick it up, or
Excellent.
and take it and turn it in for evaluation. That's step one.
Excellent.
We need to find out if they have that problem,
Okay.
or if their symptoms may be in fact related to something else.
I see.
But once it is determined that is fairly likely that they are systemic candidiasis suffer, sooner the better.
Excellent. So it really depends. Everybody, of course, we take it on an individual basis, but the sooner the better.
Sooner the better, because the longer you suffer from a condition like this, the more complex it becomes. And when you're dealing with a yeast overgrowth or molds, fungus, parasites, that family of low-grade organisms, they can be very insidious. And their real danger lies in the fact that they develop symptomology in the body very slowly.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have it for months before you begin to notice. And it's like someone who wakes up and doesn't feel very well.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes away and it comes back, and it goes away and comes back. And pretty soon they have more days where they're kind of off than when they're well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a slow evolution of deterioration of the chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And the danger of that is that it happens oftentimes so slowly that people pay no attention to it. And some people have felt off or unwell for so long, they've accepted it as a way of life.
Yes, I see that.
And you ask people, you tell them, well, how do you feel? Well, I feel all right, same as always, but they're really awful.
Terrible.
They've just learned to accept that that's the lot in life. That's what they've been dealt. And it's been so long since they've had a more optimal, vibrant state of well-being that they can't recall what it was like.
I see
And
that.
candida is one of the things that can do that to a person. I mean, at our research center, we deal with thousands of candida patients every month, and it is an absolute epidemic.
It really is, and now that you've provided us with a beautiful test and an outline that we can actually spell these things out is really a great tool, and we thank you for that.
Well, and I think that the key to whether you should come down and take the test is, do you have more off days than on? Do you go to your doctor regularly and he can't find anything wrong with you? Does he take blood work and does a physical and he says you're perfectly fine, all your numbers are great, and you find yourself saying, well, then why do I feel so horrible? Then that would be a time to come down and investigate this further.
Well, very well put. Okay, we have the next question. I have paid lots of money for good vitamins. Should I take them till they're gone, or should I start your full spectrum?
Well, I don't believe in wasting things.
Yes.
So if you've made the investment, you obviously made the investment for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore I think that you ought to complete what you started. If you want to know how your supplements stack up against what we call our full spectrum concept, which I will get into later, bring them down here. We'll take a look at them. We'll give you our honest opinion. But in my viewpoint, because the standard American diet is so deficient in key nutrients, anything is better than nothing at all. That having been said, then obviously our goal would be to get the individual on a program that is likely going to be more comprehensive and less costly.
Excellent. Well, more comprehensive and less costly is, I think,
It's always a good thing.
it really is a good thing. I know most people would want to do that. I know that's our goal here at Body Detox Center. Now, this question's from Luella. What do you think of alkaline water?
Well, I think that there is a tremendous misconception about acidity and alkalinity. So let's start with that first, and then I think it will answer the question about alkaline water.
Excellent.
There is a tremendous consensus amongst the alternative therapies, nutrition, complementary medicine world that says we must strive to alkalize the body because alkalinity is a healthy state, and if you're too acidic, it breeds cancer and all these other things that we hear about. Here's the sad problem with that. You cannot alkalize or acidify the human body. To do so beyond 0.02 from 7.0, which is neutral, is lethal. That, in fact, a couple of the very few true emergencies in medicine is metabolic acidosis and alkalosis. So we can't do that even if we tried.
Right.
When we talk about acid and alkaline, we're talking about the digestive system. And the digestive system of a healthy individual follows what we call the acid-alkaline tide. Okay. And it's just like the ocean, when the tides roll in and they roll out. Okay. During the day, you should be slightly acidic. At night, you should be slightly alkaline. To be less than that, or variance from that, produces less than wellness. So, bringing us around to your specific question about alkaline water. Alkaline water is a great thing, I suppose, for helping to detoxify the digestive system.
Excellent.
But it's not going to alkalize your body, hopefully, because that would kill you.
Great point. I mean, to be able to have you distinguish that is really important, even for me.
Well, it's just been, it's like these things. If you this whole acid-alkaline thing has been around, that I can remember, at least since the 70s.
Okay.
And it's kind of like a lot of things in our society. Even if they're wrong, if you repeat them long enough, they gain a slow credibility, and after a while, they're almost accepted as fact.
Well, interesting you say that.
And that's exactly what happened with this acid-alkaline thing. And people have never stopped to think for just a minute what they're saying.
Right. Saying the pH, but doing it in the way that it coincides with your own acid and alkaline-based tide.
Digestive-wise.
Digestive-wise.
Yes.
That's the key.
Not systemically,
yes,
digestive-wise.
I think that's excellent. Well, good. I'm always learning something new every day, and certainly that put it in a great perspective. Thank you. Okay, I know this is from Mandy from Des Moines, Iowa. What do you think about ringing in the ears? Question one.
I think it's annoying.
Well,
First
yeah.
thing.
And in Meniere's disease, and that's a little bit more specific, but let's talk about ringing in the ears. A lot of people have that.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
There are several nutrient deficiencies that have been directly linked to this problem. Coenzyme Q10.
Interesting.
Okay. Magnesium, manganese, vitamin A, and B complex.
Wow.
And I've been very successful in helping lots of people over the years to completely eliminate that problem. And that recipe is not only will be available for folks who want to come here, but it's also in my book, Healthy Living Made Easy.
Beautiful. Well, certainly I'm going to go to that chapter. And Meniere's disease, again, it's the same line with the
same basic thing.
Yeah,
It's
excellent.
just a more diagnostic approach or diagnosis of it. It's the same problem.
I'm going to read your book, and then I'm going to post that somewhere and have people come here so they can figure it out.
Yeah, you can put that protocol on your website if you like.
Well, I think there's so many people that have complained of that. I know I've developed it, and obviously, it's annoying.
Yeah.
So, all right. This one is from Lori from Colorado Springs. How do I lose that last 10 pounds?
Well, the person who discovers a quick and easy way to do that is going to retire in about a week. But it's a funny thing about body weight. There are several things that we could talk about, and I don't want to go in and turn this conversation into a weight management session. But it always seems that people are unhappy with themselves. They're unhappy with the body they live in,
Right.
right? Because we are a very ephemeral surface society. And so everyone has this vision of how they would like to be. Hollywood has a vision of the perfect man and the perfect woman, and the rest of us simply desperately try to achieve that in some manner.
Yeah.
The big problem with that is that we're not all the same.
Right.
Some of us are never going to be thin. Some of us are never going to be bulky.
Right.
But we can be the best that we can be. So when someone asks me, how do I lose that last 10 pounds? The first thing I want to know is, do you need to lose it?
Great question.
Okay. If you do, then that goes into what we call metabolic trickery. See, the metabolism sets itself according to your diet. Okay. So, if, for example, you go on 1,200 calorie diet and you got 50 pounds to lose, the closer you come to that 50-pound weight loss, the more resistant your metabolism becomes. Because it goes back to the starvation prevention genes that we have. See, because our ancestors went through winters where there were no supermarkets or fast food restaurants.
Right.
So if they didn't plan things really well, they had a very precarious winter.
Yes.
Because there was minimal food available.
Right.
Okay.
Interesting.
So what we don't understand today in our society of excess is that our ancestors deliberately fattened up in the fall because it was only the fat ones that made it to spring. The skinny ones all died of starvation.
Interesting.
Well, we still have those programs in our chemistry, in our genetics. So the closer one comes to what your body chemistry feels is the optimal weight for you, the slower your weight loss will become because your metabolism begins to slow to prevent starvation.
Interesting.
If you go on too low a calorie diet, you can induce starvation hormones from the adrenal glands, and your weight loss will come to a screaming halt. It's called the weight loss plateau, which affects millions of dieters.
Right.
So the best way to lose that last 10 pounds is to A, be sure you have 10 pounds that you need to lose.
Okay.
And B, then we can start tricking your metabolism, and we do that by changing the amount of calories you consume every 3 days.
Oh, interesting.
So, for example, we might put somebody on 1,000 calories for 3 days, which is way too low
Right.
for the long term.
Right.
But then we'll have them consume 1,800 calories for 1 day. And this going up and down, which I call bouncing, the metabolism, prevents the metabolism from setting at any given spot.
Interesting.
And we can usually trim off the extra weight. But that's the reason why most dieters find it frustrating. It's because the closer you come to your optimal weight, the more your body's going to kick in a survival protective measure to get through the cold winter that we don't need anymore, but the chemistry doesn't know that yet.
I hear you. Well, I think bits and pieces have come up, but you said it so beautifully and put it all together. And do you really need to lose it? Is it society's?
Or is it what's in the fashion magazine?
Exactly. No, I hear what you're saying. Excellent. All righty. This is an open-ended question, but what is the fastest way back to health, and what are the steps to follow? Outline them briefly for us, Dr. White.
Well, firstly, we have to look at how we got away from health and wellness.
Right.
Because if we don't know how we got there, we're certainly never going to figure out how to turn around and go back again.
Right.
So how did we get in this mess, whatever that mess is?
Right.
Okay, whether it's diabetes or arthritis or heart disease, or how did we get into this mess of chronic degenerative disease? How did chronic degenerative diseases become epidemic in the last 50 years when they were relatively unknown before?
That's amazing.
Okay. So we need to understand that. Well, let's look at the factors that have changed. The biggest change in the last 50 or 60 years has been our diet, the standard American diet. It has deteriorated in the last 50 or 60 years to a form of eating that our grandparents wouldn't have believed, would have probably killed them. The only reason that we survive it as well as we do is because we've been indoctrinated and exposed to it slowly. It's kind of like being inoculated against a poison. But as I said earlier, we can take the standard American diet and take it to a third world nation of indigenous people and kill half of them in 10, 15, 20 years. It's been done.
Yeah.
We did it in our own Hawaiian Islands during World War II when the soldiers were using Hawaii as a strategic base in the Pacific. Well, all those guys came in with backpacks full of candy bars and gave it to all the local kids on the beach. And in 10 years, diabetes had gone from obscurity to 51% of the population.
Amazing.
So this is how we got in this mess, okay? Now, how are we going to get back from it? Well, there are several things. I figure that there are 3 pivotal factors, maybe 4. First of all is to clean up your diet.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean you have to eat like a monk. It's not fun.
No.
I really believe that the human body likes moderation. Unfortunately, our brain doesn't. We love excess. 1 cocktail, 2 cocktails, never enough. Got to have 12. Got to fall down on our face.
Yeah.
Got to.
Yeah.
Or we're going to have none at all.